Okeke Somtochukwu Charles by name. It's a pleasure to have you here on this platform, Ewagoyin today restaurant. Here is my journey from beans to business. Like most people will be surprised to see that is a guy behind the brand called Ewagoyin today. Yeah, really surprising, but in life, I got to understand that people do things for a vision and a passion. This was a gift. This was bettered through me for a very long time when I was very, very young. We are a family of all boys. That's the shocking truth. Only one girl. And the girl came in when my parents were in desperate search for a girl. And she came as the fourth born, which were five in the family. Now, this is how the story of my journey from beans to business all started. But please subscribe to this channel for more updates or more stories about me. And thank you for those who has actually subscribed. Thank you so much. Now, my journey from beans to business is a very, very funny one. It all started from we having this beans eating. As we are all boys, we ate beans, and my mom was a caterer. She cooks. Like, virtually all of us grew in the kitchen, but me as the firstborn, I grew with my mom in the kitchen. I grew personally with her in the kitchen, learning everything that has to do with kitchen. That's where my passion of cooking actually started. I love the fact that cooking was a passion for me, but converting it to business, it all started with stories. And here's the story. Fast forward to me gaining admission. I gained admission, but that was not when I started Ewagoyin. There were stories that led to me starting Ewagoyin. So, I was with my friends sometimes back as 2020. Like, I came to Abeokuta after graduating, after my undergraduate days. I came to Abeokuta. I told my parents I can't stay in Lagos, so go back. I need to go back to my base where I graduated from, which was Abeokuta. So I came back to Abeokuta. I stayed with my friend who I begged because I didn't have anybody in Abeokuta to stay with. So I begged him, can I squat with you for a while before I can gain my ground here in Abeokuta? Because I actually didn't know anybody here because my basement actually was Lagos. So I squatted with my friend. I worked for churches as secretary, but it wasn't like paying with the vibe to just make ends meet. They were actually, as a secretary in church, if you know what it is to be a secretary in church, it was really hectic. Typing, printing, even to the extent of even carrying video cameras to video the pastor and help them go live, do other things on during the church service. So I was in the church for a very long time, but it got to a point I told myself, what can I do with my life? That was when I actually started a business called Crayfish, called Krila Crayfish. I gave my name of my business called Krila Crayfish. I started hawking around the market, going around Kuto Market. If you know Kuto Market in Abeokuta well, started hawking around Kuto Market, walking around market to market, trying to advertise my crayfish called Krila Crayfish. But the ends were not really still meeting because I was not doing it like someone that was passionate about this until I got to start Ewagoyin. That's when I got to understand I had more passion for cooking than hawking crayfish. It was really a serious deal, like for me. It was really a serious deal for me. So I started Krila Crayfish hawking and all that. But after all that, I squatted with my friend, hawking the crayfish, come back home at night, squat, sorting how to eat, At the same time, I know that it was really stressful and hectic. After a while, a very long while of doing this crayfish, I had a friend called TJ, called Thank God Onuche. I met him in the process of my undergraduate days. We were both friends, but not knowing that he would actually start Beans business called Ewagoyin. I didn't know he would actually start business called Ewagoyin. He started it, but I guess he jeered my passion to go into Ewagoyin business. Because while I was doing crayfish, ends were not really meeting, and I was asking myself, for how long will I do this crayfish business? I just felt I was doing it for the nurture to make ends meet, not for the nurture to do it as a passion. There's something to do as there are two things to do in business as one to do it as a passion and one to make ends meet. Now, I guess Ewagoyin, I guess Krilla Keshes was for a to make ends meet, but Ewagoyin today was a passion. Since 2020 and still running here in the city of Abeokuta. Now, how I converted my passion for beans to business was a very astonishing one. Now, I told you of a story of how I met my friend during my undergraduate days and he started the Ewagoyin business. I had to like condition myself after selling crayfish to come and like partake in him like someone that is not attached to wages. I was not attached to any funds like he should pay me for working with him. After my crayfish business, I had to stoop myself low to like work with him. But one thing I noticed that he didn't want me to know the secret of the business and the beans making. He didn't want me to know the sauce making and the beans making. He wanted me to just hang around him as friends and bring the business to limelight because he knows I have a lot of ideas I can bring to the table that can support his business. But he was not doing the same for me while I was running crayfish. So I felt he was just doing it for like when Charles come around, we'll run these things together. So he was coming up with street shows, with street events. He was coming up with contests like who can finish first to finish Ewagoyin on the street. Coming up with campus, going to campus, like coming up with various events. I was in the picture of everything. To the extent he was even starting, he started a movie that could bring Ewagoyin into that movie. But I was involved even to the extent I was carrying camera for him, I was videoing for him, I was doing every aspect, but not minding that God was setting me on a pace to start mine because the passion was there. The passion was there. That's the main goal. The passion was there. But I was doing all this without even expecting any wages. Even sometimes we have to work overnight. That was how serious it was. We started this. We started out and we started doing this together. Not quite long in the process, I had to like ask myself some question. What did I really want for myself? Did I want to continue with crayfish, or did I want to continue with working with my friend, like not working actually, but like joining, collaborating with him to run the business without even asking myself what did I stand to gain from like being with my friend for how like for so many years. Because I know I ran crayfish for like virtually 4 to 5 years. And I was actually with that same TJ Onuche, my friend, who was doing Ewagoyin. I was actually with him for that same years until I established mine in 2020, which was called Ewagoyin Today Restaurant. That was the pain Not a pain, I call it a lesson. I was a phase. I don't call it a phase I was going through to equip my own self. But God knows everything. It was while I was crossing the road on a fateful day that the name struck right in my head, Ewagoyin today restaurant. And one thing people don't know, that immediately a vision strikes, a passion strikes, it comes with a given name, a name that will sell your brand. When that name came, I caught it, like I caught it with all happiness. Came home jubilating because like I felt fulfilled. I took that vision and straight up the next day, that was how crazy it can be. I had to go to look for how I could rent a shop. Like, you don't have to wait for that vision to, like, you just have to start. That was the funny. I just had to start. But I didn't even want to ask how I should start after getting the name while crossing the road. Okay, there was a breach. There was a breach somewhere, I guess. Okay, I said I had to call my fiancée, who was my source of motivation, because you have to have someone that could motivate you in those periods. She was really my motivator at the point, even while I was getting backlash from home, because my parents were like, Ewa going 100 naira. Do you want to sell it like those Togolese that will just hawk it around like a graduate? Ewa going. Like, there are some forces that will want to actually hinder that vision which you have, that passion which you have. There are some forces that really want to hinder it. But my parents, especially from family will be the major hindrance. They will like want to like really hit you so that you can give up. That was my main backlash. But I didn't. That was my main um that was my main backlash. That was my main backlash. But I didn't actually want to give up. I didn't want to give up. Giving up is never an option. Giving up was never an option. So I'll actually continue this episode because the network is really kind of giving me some backlash. The network is actually giving me some kind of backlash. This is an episode 1. Episode 2 will actually come up. Episode 2 will actually come up. So let's stay tuned. Let's stay tuned. For that episode 2, I will tell you how I left Ewagoyin with my friend starting mine. I will tell you how. It was not an easy journey, but it was a journey to learn from. Learn with me in this process. Learn with me in this process. It's a process because there are a lot to learn and tap from me. From 2020 to 2025, there are a lot to learn. So stay tuned with me in this journey and stay blessed. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to hear more about my story. I will tell you everything to learn. You will learn about my own story. Today today I'm not really disappointed, but I'm grateful to God for what I have achieved. I am a married man with the same business, and I am happy with the same. I am a married man with the same business, and I'm happy with the same business. So stay tuned, and you will hear more about me and more about my story. Subscribe to learn more. Thank you so much.